Okay, I'll be right back with you, Josephine.
Okay, all right. Hi Phyllis, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
Good, good. I'm Josephine. And I do have my colleague Tremaine on the line. She's just she's training, so she's gonna be listening. So let me ask you this. I don't know if you know the answer or not, because I'm going to share my screen and go through some things. Do you know if she's got the email with how to log into the Paya Connect?
I'm not sure, sweetheart. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. We'll ask her when she comes in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So here's what'll happen, Phyllis, is when for the email, the screen up here, it's got my test account, so the URL is going to be different. The URL for her is going to be payaconnect.com. I can put this in the chat for you.
Okay.
Sometimes it makes it a little easier when it's in the chat because we don't know if she should have received it, but here it is. All right, and do you see it in the chat?
I'm looking. I don't know if she's got her chat up or not, honey. Yeah, I don't know where she's got it. Let me pull up her chat.
Do you
here.
see a pop-out bar?
Yeah.
Got chat?
Yeah,
Okay,
I got it.
On chat. All right. So that's the URL that was sent in the email, and then the username is going to be her email address.
Okay.
Now she can add more people to it, but what she'll do is go to forgot password, and then from forgot password, it's going to send her an email for a temporary password that she can put in here and be able to log in.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if she wants you to add you, we can go through and see how she wants to add you to it. Okay, let me go ahead and log into my test account here. And what we're doing for this particular system, just to give you an overview, this is primarily used for, she can do a lot, this has a lot of features, but the primary feature that she's looking for is being able to send out a link to her customers.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is what our primary goal is. Okay, so here's what'll happen. Is that once she is able to log in, she's going to see a dashboard, just like this one. All right, and then the dashboard is going to show history and forecast. So it's going to start forecasting out, and if she just wants to see history, she'll be able to see the history here. And then return takes her back to the main page. Over here, if she uses the reoccurring billings, now if she decides that she likes this system more than the system that we originally had her set up for, then she can use this system because this one has a little bit more bells and whistles than the one that we had originally set her up for.
Okay.
All right, so she can use reoccurring billings here, and then here's some action tabs here that she can also reach over here to the left, which is where I'm going to be accessing them.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when she comes back, I'm going to go straight into the payment, how to set up the host payment page for her to use links. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you how you can process a transaction. Let's just say somebody calls you up and says, I need you to go ahead and pay the transaction right now, and you're going to process it. This is one place where you can go in and process it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's got sale, it has off only, refund, force, and AVS. Now AVS is just an address verification, so if you want to verify an address is actually what the customer says. Like, let's say sometimes, in your situation, I don't think you're gonna have a problem with this. But if you ever question whether a card is gonna be good or not, sometimes you can use the address verification, let it reach out to the issuing bank and just verify. This does not process a transaction though. It only verifies.
The only question I have is when we're posting our insurance payments, because the insurance will come in either as a check or a credit card. So are we going to have to go into each individual patient's account and run that credit card that many times?
Yes.
We are?
Oh, well, let's see. Let me see. Let's think about this for a second. If you go to, it depends on how she wants to set it up. But if you have customers that are they going to be using the same credit card?
Well, this is insurance companies that when we get payments, it's always a different credit card number, or it's a check. We have our contracts that they'll send payments for like 10 people and it's all in one check. Or insurances will send us a credit card that's only good for like 60 or 90 days that we can run one time and it pays 3 or 4 patients' accounts at one time.
Oh.
That's what I was asking. How are we going to have to do that? Because we can't run the card that many times because this card's only good for one use. And we were just wondering how we were going to be able to post those payments.
I don't know. I've never had that question before, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That I'm not 100% positive how you would do it through here, because when you process a transaction, when you process a credit card, you're only going to get one authorization code.
Mm-hmm.
So and this is so you can so you're saying you could run the card, but then how are you going to disperse the payment so that it shows each one of the
Exactly.
patients paid?
Well, and where would I run it? I mean,
well, you can run it. So so you can run it from here. I don't think it's the best place to run it, but you can run it from here.
yeah. That was the only one, is just figuring out how we were going to do the insurance ones when, let's say, Blue Cross Blue Shield pays a lump sum of, say, $700 and it's got 5 or 6 patients in that one payment. How were we going to post them and run that card and still attach it to the appropriate patient's accounts?
I don't know. Because this system isn't designed for that part of it. This system is just designed for a one-to-one transaction. So you may have to do a lot of manual process for that piece of it. You could process the transaction, but it would have to be for the full amount and then go back into each patient and divvy up the amount.
So maybe have it to where it's like a Blue Cross Blue Shield or just whatever, and then post that one payment, and then I would have to go to the back like I'm doing now and post in each individual one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm back, Miss
Okay.
Josephine.
Okay, so here's have you tried logging into this system?
I have not.
Okay, so let me go back to the beginning here.
Okay.
And do you have the email that had your username and password?
I don't think I've not logged on. We were just getting everything ready to go to RxNT, and then I canceled RxNT. So that's why I was calling. I don't think I have a login for Paya yet, but I can tell you.
Okay, so I sent you an email.
Okay.
And so she's got the paya.paya.com there. So what I'd like for you to do is we have the username as your email address.
Okay.
You can put that in the chat too if you like. And what I want you to do is put in that your email address in where it's got the username, and then you want to go to forgot password.
Lost password.
Yeah, forgot password.
Okay.
Then it's going to send you a temporary password.
Okay.
And that temporary password is what you want to put in here.
Okay. Okay, it said either username or email does not exist for us. I put in JCL Express Walk-In Clinic at gmail.com for the username.
Okay.
Let me go back in and see if I can find an email from you that's got that.
Sometimes if you put a space in there, it doesn't know it. Just a second. Let me go in. I've got my test account, and then I have my live account. So let's see. Okay, I just sent you a password.
Okay.
See if it'll work. And when you put the password in, you do need to make sure that there's no space in the end. So let me show you what I mean. This one's kind of particular about that. So when I copy and paste it, I make sure it's flushed. And when I go to paste it, I make sure that all of the dots there, it'll put an extra dot if there's a space after it.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. Yeah.
All right. What you just sent me said we received a password reset request for JCL. Please click on the following link to reset, but it doesn't have a temporary password. So I've clicked in.
Uh-huh.
And now it's telling me to make my own password?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so terms and conditions, there's no contract on here, right?
Right. No. That's just the terms and conditions for using the website.
Okay. All right, so now I'm in.
Okay, so here's where you're going to see the dashboard, just like you see my screen.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then what I was telling her is that you can, if you do a reoccurring billings, it'll be to the right here,
Uh-huh.
and then you have action tabs up at the top here. These 4 action tabs are the same as the navigational panel here to the left. Now, for the forecasting, some people like this, some people don't, but if you only want to see the history and not the forecasting, you can click on additional graphs, and this is just going to show you the history.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, do you want me to go straight into how to use the post payment page, or do you want to know about these additional features?
I want to go into, let's just do additional features so I know what's in here.
Okay. All right. So the first one's going to be the Paya Virtual Terminal, and this is where you can process a transaction. Let's say somebody calls you up and says, I want a transaction to be paid. You can come here and you can pay the transaction. It's going to default to sale. You do have auth-only, refund, forced, and AVS. Now, auth-only and forced you may never actually use, but they do work together. Refund, of course, is your refund. AVS only is if you want to verify the address. It does not authorize the transaction, but if you have a card and you're questioning whether that card is good or not, it may not be in your business that you have this come up, but sometimes when people have items that they have to ship, they sometimes have issues with whether the card that they receive is good or not, and they can go out to the AVS and just test it and make sure it matches what the issuing bank has. All right, so to process a transaction, you would just put in the amount, card number. Month. Year. Now, everything else, this is not an asterisk, it's not necessary, but if you put a description here, it's going to show up on the receipt.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to put in the AVS for security measures, that's up to you, or in the cardholder's name. Email address, that's up to you if you want to put that in. Save account vault. We do have a different place that we recommend for the account vault, which I'll show you in just a moment.
Okay.
Okay,
But
so
if I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if we put the email in there, they'll get a receipt, right, to their email?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now we go to process. Now here's where you'll see the receipt. So the receipt's going to tell you whether it's been approved or declined. It gives you some details here. You can void it, so avoids any time the transaction was just processed. You can void it. And then you have the email. You can email it to your customer if you need to. You can print it, close it. But up here where it says transaction detail, you click on these lines, and it's going to bring up more details about that transaction. So you can look at it. Sometimes you may need to go back and look at it. And I'll show you, we can come back and look at this again if you need to. And then you have your action tabs here if you need to like rerun the card again.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So going from the virtual terminal, we're going over to contacts. Now contacts is a place where if you have your customers that you have that are consistently coming in, you may want to have it to go where you can add to the contacts there. That way you can keep up with their payments. Now nothing is actually required for this page, but you can, I would recommend the first name, last name, and email address, and then save it. Here's what the reason I say that is because when you come in to, let's say Bob, if I have a card saved for Bob, it'll show it here, or I can add a card here. This is going to be Paya Secure Server too. I can charge the contact, I can add reoccurring billing and or quick invoice. So it's a great way to look at, so for this customer, it's a great way to keep track of how much your customers have paid. So it's a nice feature here. You can also put in notes. You can also upload files. So it's available if you want to use it. Some merchants, they don't see a need for this, but for me, if you have repeat business or customers that come in to you on a regular basis, this to me would be a nice feature.
Okay.
Okay. And then, like I said, each one of these are action tabs too, so you can actually process the transactions here, and you can come up to charge the contact as well.
Okay.
Okay. So that's contacts. Now, this is where you can save cards in Paya Secure Server. So this is the vault. And to add a card in the vault is the action tab up at the right. And here is where you can link the contact information from here. You want to put in card type. So if you do have our ACH services, I'm not sure if you have that or not. Let's see. Oh, you don't have our services, but if you do, you can ask Tony, contact him again, and he can add ACH services or credit card, check services. So credit card, title. Now title is just for your reportings, and you can, if you have specific titles you want to add, this is just for your reporting. Cardholder name, you want to put in the cardholder's number, authorization, and year, and that's all you really need to save it in the vault.
Okay.
Okay. Now for the vault here, you can come back. You can do searches here, and you can search by contact. But over here to the right, you can run a transaction from here. And then on this tab here, you can again run a transaction, add to reoccurring, view it, edit, or delete. Okay. So that's account vault. For reoccurring billings, you do have to have the account vault in the reoccurring billing. So this outline here is in order that you would need from contacts down, this is in the order that you would need to process a transaction, different ways to do it. All right, so now we're going to go to reoccurring billings, and to add a reoccurring, it's the action tab up at the top. So here it's going to ask you what you want. So if you do have ACH services, you'll choose. We're going to use credit card. We're going to go to next. Here it's going to ask whether you have an existing account in the vault or whether you need to add it. So you just go to new, you can add it, and then you can continue. For me, I'm going to use existing. I've got a contact here. This is why I like contacts. Go here to test, choose which one I want, search, and now I can choose between two different cards. Well, for me it's the same, but it's two different cards, let's say. And then I go from there, I go to, it's going to show me the next step. So this is the actual reoccurring billing. And again, it's going to ask you for descriptions. This is for reporting purposes. So if you've got somebody you are going to be on a monthly payment, or they're going to be paying for a copay or something to that effect, you might want to put that for descriptions, just so you can pull reports easier. You want to put in the dollar amount. Repeat, it's going to ask you if you want to repeat it or if it's a one-time event. So for repeating, it's going to be processed you could choose it quarterly if you want, or let's say you don't want it to be months, you can do days, you can do weeks. So you have a lot of options here, and you can choose when you want to process it. So this is going to be frequency. For the payment start date, the payment start date is not going to let you start a reoccurring payment today. It's always going to be the next day, because it takes a little bit of time, 24 hours, before it can start to do the reoccurring. So I'm going to do it for September. Now here's what it's going to ask you, whether it's ongoing or installments. Ongoing, your customers will need to let you know that they no longer want the reoccurring. Installments is going to be how many times you want that reoccurring to process. And then notify before, here's where you can choose your customer when you want that payment to be notified. So let's say we want it to be 5 days before it's due.
Okay.
And then when you save it, it brings up an agreement. So this outlines the details of the payment. If you click on more, it shows you the schedule. Now this, I do understand here, which is the agreement. Unfortunately, it does not have where you can have the customers email it and sign it by email and send it back. It is paper, so they would need to print it and then sign it and send it and give it back to you.
Well, if they set up a payment plan with me, we set them up for them. So this is something we would do when we set the plan up. So.
All right. So then when you go back here, so for reoccurring billings, this is where you can come in here and look at the reoccurring account. So here's where you can search by description. You have all these different ways that you can do a search. Over here to the right is where your action tab is, where you can view, edit. So let me show you what view here is, where you can do a skip a payment, you can defer a payment. It gives you the options schedule, and then you also have these payments here. Okay.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, when you go to the dashboard here, you can see real quickly what reoccurring declined and what declined, and then you can click on today's tab and it'll bring you over to that report.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now going back to reoccurring billings. So that is pretty much how you set up a reoccurring billing. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, quick invoices. Now, quick invoices is where you can email out to your customer an invoice. This is a little bit different from the host payment page, because this is going to be a little bit more customizable. So from here, what you want to do, I have ACH services here. So let's say I don't want them to pay by check. I could come here and say none. So I have it. So if you did have ACH added, you could choose between if you want them to have a choice between both or just one. Because here you've got a choice here as well. So then from here, it's going to be, okay, so from here it's the title. You absolutely have to have a title. So you can put in, let's say it's going to be maybe copay. Invoice number is up to you. Due date. Here's where you can choose today's date for a due date, but let's say you want to do it for, we're going to do it for the 25th. Now, expiration, you can choose whether you want this to expire. Let's say you don't want it to be outstanding for October 1st. Allow partial pay. So if you say yes to this and they owe you $100, I know copays aren't usually $100, but let's say they owe you $100, you can choose how much they can make a minimum payment. So let's say you want them to be able to pay at least, let's say $25. Okay, so their minimum payment they can make is up to $25. No, they have to make a minimum payment of $25 because here is an overpay. So let's say you want them to be able to pay $100 over. Now, again, this is strictly up to you because you can always say no.
Yeah, we won't ever use this invoice screen.
Okay. All right. And then here's where the contact goes, and if it's linked up to this contact, then it's going to come up to here. You can find that contact here. Okay. And then you put their email address in here. Seems like I spelled my name right. Okay, and then you choose whether you want to email it out to them. So you could say no. Let's say you're still working on this. You could say no. And then days before, so this will notify. It defaults to 3 days, 7 days, but this can be changed. So 3 days, it's going to notify before it's due, and if they don't pay it, then there's a due. It's going to notify them after that due date, and then you can also say yes to notify on date too that it's due, and then you can choose whether you want to add an invoice to this file. You would say yes or no. You can add a note, and then you would put your email in here, and then come up here if you want to upload a file. And for items listed, you do need to put in a dollar amount. So if you have a lot of items listed, you could just upload the invoice, put in the total amount, and then here you can put in the item. So you can say invoice number, and then you put in the amount, and you add items. So this isn't an asterisk, but it is absolutely necessary. Okay, so then you would come down here and you would save it, and if it tells you that where's my error here? Let's do 2, and now let's save. Okay, so now it just emailed the invoice, and then they can click on the Pay Now button, and they can pay it. So this one's a little bit more specific to your customer, if you want to have that. And you can come over here and look at it. So this will be, and you can resend it if you need to. So this is it. This is another option if you would like. Let me show you what it looks like. Whoops.
So does this all come with Paya, or is it cost?
No, it comes with Paya.
Okay, so it's no additional cost. It's just your flat rate because we were signing up for a flat percentage every month.
No,
And-
no. This is at no cost. This
Okay.
is part of the Paya system.
Okay.
All right. So something happened to that email. So let me see if I can get that email back. Oh, here it is. Okay. So here's what the Pay Now looks like. This this is what your customer. This is the name of my business.
Mhm.
This is the default test name. So it would have your business name, and then this is where the email address would come from, and then they would just click on the Pay Now button,
Okay.
and it would give them that link. Okay. All right. So and here's what that looks like, so you can just see it. All right, and then they would just put in their information here and then pay it. So that's what that looks like. Now, let me go down to, so that's the quick invoice. Locations. Now, this is going to be important. This is important. And the location, the reason I say that is for locations, you click on your name. The reason that this is important is because your batch information here, this is where you can automatically close your batch, but then you also can look at when the auto batch times is set. You can come in and change it if you like. So you can say okay to here, and then come back into here and just change it and just say okay. Here's where most people want their batch close notification to be for multiple people within the company. So if you have somebody else you want to add to the batch close notification emails, you can come here, put in the email address, click on close batch summary, and click OK, and then you'll have another person receiving those emails. So it's up to you. So this is a manual close. This is your auto batch close time. So if you have it here, you don't have to do anything here. But if you want to add another email, this is where you would go to do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, here's where before I go to the reports, I'm going to stay on locations because this is where you go to settings.
Can I ask a question on that one? On when you do the batching at the end of the night, can you print that off? Because usually we do our batch when we're closing at night. So is it better?
You can go and you can do an automatic batch. All
Okay.
you have to do is go here to where it says close batch and click on it.
Okay.
And it's going to automatically email you. So if you get the emails, or if whoever's emails listed here is going to get an email notification.
All right.
But
Do you
you
have to
always
get an
have-
email, or can you print it?
You can go to transactions here,
Mhm.
and then it'll show you today's, and when you batch it out, you'll have that email.
Okay.
I mean, you'll have that where you can print it, and you can export it out here.
Okay. Because that's how we're used to now. They batch print it, and we compare it with our day sheet.
Okay. So it's up to either way.
Okay.
It's going to show you. So you just click on here and get a batch report, or you can print it. Either way.
Okay.
And see, status is going to, let's see. There is, batch details. So this is going to give you your batch number right here. And there's another place where you can locate this, which I'll go through as well. So now let's go back to locations. Okay, and let's go from settings, let's go to host payment page. Now you have a total of 5 host payment pages. I've already used 3 of mine. To start a host payment page, you want to click on create host payment page, and most people use the simple form vertical. So from here, you do have to have, for form settings, you do have to have a title. Now, if you put this on it, because you can't put this on a website, if you do, then a lot of people who have websites will have this information right here. It's not necessary for you to have, but if you do have it, it's good. If you don't, then that's fine too. But you have to have a title name. So you would put a title name here, so you can make up to 5 pages. So if one's going to be just a payment, you can title it payment. One's going to be a different kind of payment, you can title it that way if you like. And then you want to click up here where it's got this arrow button. And then here's where the body is going to, this is where the actual form is going to be. So it's going to start with the header. You can upload an image here. Add a row, so you can, let's say you want to you can put in your business title. Well, let's do it this way. So you can put here, and let's say we want to put the date. You can click and drop the date here, and then let's say you might want to change it so it doesn't say input. You might just want to take that out. So you can come here, take the date out like this, and if you want to make it required, I don't know why you would, or read only, you can do that, and you can update it. Now I'm only doing that just to show you what it looks like. So let's say you don't want the date, you can click on the trash can, and then you can also delete the row. So then you just have it this way. So you have a lot of ways that you can create this. All right, and then you can go to the body, and here's where you can, let's say you want to add a row here. This is a caption. So let's say we want the caption to be at the very bottom. But let's say we want to make sure that the email address is, that they put their email address in. We can come here, put down as a drop, click and drop, and we can come up to here. It's going to be labeled email, but we want to make it required. So now we update the field, and now it's a required field. Let's say we want them to put in their order number. Let's say we want them to put in the order number, but we want that to be a little bit further up here. So we can move this around, put this up here, and again, if you want it to be required, you can change the name of this, but if you want it to be required, and you can update the field here. So now they have to put an order number in, and let's say they have to put their email in. Okay, now let's go over to the footer. The footer is just going to give you the authorization agreement, so it's up to you if you want to put more in, and again, you would just do the same thing. Add a row, and then choose which one, and click and drop. Now, if you want to look at it so you can preview it, so here's what it would look like. And then let's say that you want to do more editing, you can do an edit here, and then go back and make some changes here. If you want, you could also, then you can save it. So I'm going to show you what the ones that I already have look like. So once I save it, I can go to action tabs. I can edit, delete, or use. So if I want to go ahead and use it, I would come here, and this URL right here, I could just copy it to clipboard. Let me get a email. Okay, so now I can put in an email here. I mean, I could put in some wordage too, so they can know that this is coming for them to pay it. But here's where you would put in the link, and then when they come in here like this, it's going to look just like what you saw for preview.
Okay, and this is what you were talking about, that I can copy that URL and put it on my jclexpress.net homepage.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they can come in here and make that payment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do use, now this is just, you don't have to, but let's say if you do have this information here for the URLs and stuff, sometimes people will have that information, then you can come in here and you can put in the URL redirects if you want to. It's not necessary. The only thing that's necessary is a title, but some people will have a designer, a web designer, and they'll have this information. So if you do, you can put this information in there.
Okay.
But you can put this on your website. You can also email it to them. Now, for websites, if you want to put this on your website, you can, let me go back to my page again. I'm going to show you these. Use. Okay, so for websites, you actually have more options. You have this button. You have these buttons here you can put in. If you have somebody that works on websites and they know how to do encryptions, then you can also add this encryption too. So you actually have a lot more you can do if you put it on the website. But if you want to just email it to them, you could just send them this. You could just copy it and put it to clipboard.
Okay.
We also have documentation on our knowledge base, which I will, which I could send you, and that way you can have it, and it will tell you a little bit more about how to set this up. Well, it's going to show you a little bit more about these settings here,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll give you, so you can, and then it'll tell you a little bit more about these forms here if you want to use them or not. It's up to you. You don't have to.
Okay, but they can only be
Look
sent.
what you've done.
They can only be sent by email or on the test page. But there's no way we can copy the URL and send it as a text.
The only reason I wouldn't use it as a, if you wanted, I have never had anybody ask me that, so you can test it and see. The only thing that I would have a problem with is that it might not scale to the phone correctly.
Okay.
But you can test it and see, because you don't have to put anything in there. All you have to do is just text it to yourself and see what it would look like if they click on it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, from locate. All right. So that's how you do a host payment page. Here's where you can look at reports. You go to reports and then transactions. And this is where you can look, you'll be able to look at your transactions. This is the same thing as before where you can see your batches. Okay, so then you can go back to, let's say you want to go back 90 days. You can go back 90 days, and then here's where you can do more searches. Let's say a customer says, I want you to resend me that, that payment. You can come here, find the customer, choose it, click there. Here's the receipt, and you can go ahead and email it to them. Email receipt. This is also where you can refund if you need to refund back to the customer.
Okay. But now, if I remember from the other day, we cannot refund until we batch out.
That's correct.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be a
Credit.
So the void would actually be listed on, instead of it saying refund, it'll actually say void.
Okay.
Okay, now just remind, is that the void's going to also hold that transaction for 3 to 5 business days.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now, let's say that you want to change how this report looks. You can come to Manage Columns, and then you can come here. Each one of these has that drop down. Host Payment Page. Let's say you want to add that, so you can see with the Host Payment Page. You can click on these, and then it's going to show up here.
Okay.
And then apply. Okay. The other thing I want to show you about this page is that you can also, let's say you have somebody you want to share reports, you can come here and share the reports, and then you can also print it and you can export it. So this has got a lot of features to it. Now, the admin are the only ones that will be able to see this report. So if you want to create a user and you want them to be just not have access to everything, if you make them a local user, they're not going to have access to this report. Okay, so if you do, if you go to reports here, this other credit card report, this is going to give you a numeric portion of the credit cards. This is what your local user would have access to. Okay, so.
But they can't refund from there, right?
That's correct. There's no possibility for refund. This is just giving them a view of how many your net account, your Visas, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. Some people like to see this, so it's up to you. Some people could care less. Other people like to see it, but they can't. See, if you go here, it's just going to show you the test account. So it's not going to show you anything. Now, if you want to, if you're going to use the reoccurring payments, I mean, they're going to have cards stored in the vault, then the card stored in the vault is going to show you, this is going to show you the expiration dates so that you can go in, pull a report, and let your customer know that their card's about to expire.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I don't know if you want to know about the credit card added. That just tells you that there was a credit card added to the vault. Reoccurring billings. If you do use reoccurring billings, then this is the report that you can actually pull and export out.
Okay.
Let's see. And I don't know if you'll have access to the account vault change report. Sometimes it gives me an error message. And I've never really used this report a lot, but if you do have an account change, this report will show you that there is an account change. Now, let's go to settings, and then I want to show you how you can add another user. So from here, you want to go to settings and then users. And when you click on it, you'll be here. To add another user, your action tab's up at the top right. And then here you put in the username. Most of the time we use email addresses, but it's not required. First name's not required, but last name is. And then email address would go here. Down here that's required is the time zone. And then here's where you can choose between local user or local admin. And I'll show you both in just a moment. And then you want to set it to the dashboard. Okay. Now for local user, let's go back here. Okay. And I'm going to click on this one because I don't have a role for this. So when you set this up, it's going to show you, it's going to have, so this one's the local user. It's going to say this user has no roles. You want to click here. And then you can edit, and you can choose how much information you want that local user to have. Okay. Now, if you want them to have admin access, then you can click here, edit, go to admin, save, and then you've got roles here. So my roles are going to be different than yours because this is a test environment. When you go here, you can choose how much information you want that admin to have. You're an admin, but you're the main admin. So anybody you add would be is your choosing, whether you want it to be local or admin. Okay, so I don't know. Is there any other? Do you have any questions?
No, not at this point.
Okay. All right, so the only other thing that I want to bring up is that we do have our knowledge base, and let me see if I've got our knowledge base. Yeah. Okay, so here's our knowledge base. It's going to be support.paya.com, and in here I've got basic host payment page, but if you can also just go to Paya. This is our main host payment, our knowledge base. So if we have an outage, you can come here and look to see. So if, let's say you're getting multiple declines on one day, you can come here and see if we have an outage, fraud prevention. Here's where you can go to Paya products. Okay, and then here you can choose either Paya Connect, because this first one's what you have. You also have the Paya Virtual Terminal. So you can actually look at both of these and see if you want to spend time, or if you want someone else in your team to spend time looking through this, you can. And then let's say you can go back to Paya here. And then you have a whole bunch of choices here, PCI compliance, and you can come down here, and this is our support. You can click on here and get to our support team.
Okay. So how often do y'all have interruptions?
Not often.
And how do we manage that?
So what happens is on very rare occasions there may be something that happens, and you can come here and check, or you can call the help desk.
Okay.
Sometimes if you have a lot of declines, you may want to call anyway, and just to see if it's us or if it's you, because there might be something that happened.
Okay.
That you might need to know. But we do have decline codes here as well, so you can look at the decline codes.
Okay. So how would we run the system if it's down? Just write everything down on a piece of paper and run it when it's back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we we try our best not to have our system down.
Okay.
There are very rare occasions that we do have it down, and if we know that it's our situation, or even if it's something that's not having to do with us, but we know a lot of merchants are having problems, we'll post it
Okay.
and let everybody know that we are aware that there is a problem.
Okay.
All right, now do you have our help desk phone number?
Let me write it down.
Okay, I'm gonna. This is I'm going to put this on the last. Okay, so the help desk phone number is going to be 888-760-0962, and then choose option 2.
Okay.
And you want to give them the MID number, the one that starts with 3948.
Okay. All right, so I have a question. We had talked in the beginning when I was talking to Tony. We had talked about that you have 3 choices for a card reader. But do I really even have to have a card reader if we're going to do everything off the system?
It's up to you.
Because we were looking at the USB port that's $105.
No. This one, you can use the USB port. That goes with the other system, the Paya Virtual Terminal.
Uh-huh.
This one actually has a different, so Tony, I don't think Tony knows we added this, but this one actually has it's more expensive, and I don't have the cost off the top of my head, but what it does is it actually reads the chips. But so it actually has a chip reader, which is what the industry likes for you to have, is a chip reader. So this system here, let me go back to the system.
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused because the other day we were talking about we could like Phyllis, if she answers the phone, she can take a payment at her desk and just type everything in the system.
That's correct. That is correct. So it's up to you whether you want a card reader or not.
Okay.
I mean, it's strictly up to you.
Okay, because I mean, you know, before I understand with my other company why I wanted the chip and why I wanted it used all the time, because we gotta if they use the chip, it was if they use the chip and it was used as a bank debit, I only got a 19-cent charge. But with Paya, I'm going with a flat fee every month regardless.
Okay, now that is something that is a Tony question.
Okay.
So as far as fees go, that's something that he'll have to ask you. But I didn't inform him that we added the Paya Connect, because once we add the Paya Connect, that opens you up to having a better swiper where you can dip the card in, and that's what the industry's looking for. They want to dip. And that one I do know is more expensive. I just don't know how much it is.
Okay.
It's actually a better machine than the swiper.
Because I know he gave me three choices. Invoices for payments. The Bluetooth was $92, and then but it had a monthly fee of $19.95. And then I didn't want a monthly fee, so he gave me a choice of a USB port, the Magtech Dynamax, and it was a $105 charge.
Okay, so now, like I said, I can't talk to you about
That's okay.
fees, but I can tell you about he was telling you about different products.
Mm-hmm.
So one product that he was saying that works with Bluetooth, that is through the phone. I mean, it does have the ability to have a virtual terminal to it, but it's a completely different system than this one. This one, that one is the company that we use is called Swipe Simple, and that one you can process a transaction through here, and you can use your phone for a swiper.
Okay.
A Bluetooth swiper. So that one is one. This one is the one. This one's added to you at no cost. But if you do want the swiper, it's going to add a different type of swiper, which is again the one that you'll be able to. I think it's a I know it's an Ingenico, so it's a different type than what Tony had quoted you, but you they can insert their own card into the swiper.
Okay.
Or into, so that one's where they can dip it.
Okay.
And that goes with this system right here, the Paya Connect. The Paya Virtual Terminal, which is what you originally had, that one, the swiper will only be the swiper that he mentioned, which is the MagTech. It only has the magnetic strip to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it has.
Okay.
Okay, so that one's not as up to industry standards as much as this one. It's the only one that will connect to the Paya Virtual Terminal.
Okay, because he also gave me a third choice, traditional Wi-Fi desk 3500 Wi-Fi, which is $324.
Okay, now that one is going to be it's going to be what is known in the industry as a standalone terminal. So that standalone terminal is where it does everything within that terminal itself. So you don't have the capability of you don't have a login capability here. You just set the machine up on the desk,
Mm-hmm.
and it does all the processing of transactions.
Okay.
So it's a very simple machine. It's effective, but simple.
Okay. Well, I'll get with Tony and see what he says. Because like I said, I was not wanting to buy anything since all this was on the computer. But let me see what he says.
Okay. How many cards do you think you're going to swipe?
How many cards will we swipe?
Yeah.
We swipe pretty much everybody walks through the door. Because hardly anybody pays cash anymore. So about 20?
Yeah. Then you might need a swiper. And that one is... Tony will be able to tell you how much it is. But I will let Tony know that we added the Paya Connect, so he knows when you call him, he'll know to give you that information.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And okay, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
All right. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good day.